And I think this is episode 32, if I'm correct. We're continuing to build this platform, so our membership just continues to grow, and I'm hoping that everybody takes a minute to share these videos with your friends and ask those friends that you're sharing them with to share them with their friends, so we can build this platform and get this message out to a broader audience. Um, so it might reach the person that it really, who really needs to hear it. Um, we're just on about every social media platform, and all of the literature that we reference in these videos, that'll all be posted in the featured slash announcement section of our Facebook group page, Beating Cancer Today. And so let's get into it, right? Whew. Okay. I want to talk about a few things now. All right. So kind of get your blood pumping a little bit. We're going to talk about a few things, but listen to my all-time disclaimer about how I'm not a doctor and I have no medical or scientific training. I'm an expert at research and logic. Folks, listen, I'm just a United States Marine, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer. And after 3 years of traditional Western medicine torture, I was sent home to die. And from the clutch of hospice, I was able to find a solution in repurposed medicine. So, through research and logic, I compiled 5 ingredients to comprise a protocol that is scientifically and medically proven. There's to be effective against cancer. All of I mean, there's clinical evidence to support all of this. So the same people that were pumping me full of the Western medicine poison that I was getting, well, their side jobs, in the same system of medicine, their side jobs are doing research and publishing clinical trials and studies on this repurposed medicine that has been proven to work. But it gets defunded and they never talk about it again. So I can't explain the logic behind it, but I was able to find clinical evidence for each. They're all published studies. Anybody can get them for each independent ingredient in my cocktail. So each independent ingredient in my cocktail has all been scientifically and medically proven to be effective against the disease of cancer. Um, Now there's some other caveats that should be noted. There's some. It's not great at passing the blood-brain barrier. It's quite effective on colorectal cancers. It's actually a blanketed cancer, been proven to be effective, overall most cancers. There is some struggle that it has with the blood-brain barrier passing through. But in that case, we have delivery options and we also have other ingredients in the cocktail. So, nevertheless, through all the research and logic that I was able to comprise, that I compiled, um, this is the most effective cocktail that I was able to come up with. Um, since I came up with this cocktail, the research continues, and we continue to be vigilant, and some new information to both add to this cocktail, and also new information that validates the existing ingredients in this cocktail. Even further proves the efficacy of the ingredients in the cocktail. So we made notation of that. All that information is pinned to the featured and announcement page. So hey, listen, the 5 ingredients of my cancer cocktail is fenbendazole, samidodine, which is the active ingredient in Tagamet, AHCC, which is the acronym for active hexose correlated compound. It's a collection of mushrooms. for your immune system and whatnot. Curcumin, which anybody who has cancer knows, probably familiar with it. It's anti-inflammatory, and annatto, which is the only good part of the vitamin E that you really need to be taking. All these ingredients complement each other, and in concert, it has been clinically proven, and, and also myself and thousands of people who are taking this cocktail that have had um, positive um, positive trending with the destruction of disease. So uh, I personally started taking this cocktail back in September of 2021, and within 6 weeks I was 50% less disease, and after 14 weeks of being on the cocktail I was completely no evidence of disease. And that was 9 scans consecutive, effective 2 weeks ago. I got my ninth scan, and no evidence of disease. They're all still itching their head. They don't understand why. So, hey guys, I want to take a minute to talk uh, about uh, about my journey a little bit and the cause of action in which I took to kick the shit out of my disease. Pardon the expression. In late summer of 2019 is really when I got diagnosed. I got diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer, and within a week, I was at Moffitt Cancer Center, and I was getting a port, which I still currently have. I was getting a port surgically inserted into my chest, and I began chemotherapy the next day. So the perpetual cycle of chemotherapy and surgery and radiation continued for 3 years, over and over and over again. I never actually came off of chemotherapy. But before all Western medicine was exhausted, they stretched it out for 3 years until I reached my lifetime max of chemo. Now, I don't vilify Western medicine. I'm not, the doctors that treated me were incredible, literally saved my life. They just didn't cure the disease. That's all. Um, but the process kept me alive for long enough to find repurposed medicine. And eh, 3 years of cyclic treatment, showed peaks and valleys, giving me encouragement throughout the span of the treatment, making me think there was hope that this medicine could cure me, the Western medicine. Later, I found out that the intention was never to cure me. It was only to control it. They only really need to control the disease. They don't try to cure you, or else they wouldn't be giving you the medicine that they're giving you. That does not cure the disease. It controls the disease. It mows the lawn, but it doesn't pull the roots out. It doesn't pull the weeds out from the root. It'll mow the lawn, but it doesn't get it from the root. And so it controls the disease. And as the chemotherapy works, you see the peaks. And then your cancer cells adapt and they overcome. They are able to circumvent that chemotherapy. So then the valleys come in. You get sicker and sicker and sicker. Well, then they change your medicine and the chemotherapy starts to work again. And then the cancer adapts. And that perpetual cycle continues until you're out of options. The reason for the peaks and valleys was because the doctors would prescribe a specific chemotherapy initially, but they're all cookie cutters. Everybody thinks they get the gold standard of care. It's a cookie cutter treatment. Doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter if you're at the number one hospital or the number million and 90th hospital or the clinic. It doesn't matter. It's a cookie cutter. It's a cookie cutter treatment. It's not a gold standard of care. Everybody does the same treatments. You have this specific cancer, you get this specific treatment. They're no different because they're at a more expensive hospital. I mean, they do they are funded nicely, and because they're funded nicely, they do have more options. There is there is options with money, no doubt about that. But nevertheless, that's the reason for the peaks and valleys, and the intent of chemotherapy and Western medicine. That's the real deal. That's the explanation of it. But your body has a natural ability to create autophagy within itself. So let's talk about that. What is autophagy, right? Autophagy is crucial for maintaining cellular health by removing the malfunctioning stuff the proteins and the stuff that's preventing the accumulation of damaged components um, that could lead to various diseases, including cancer. It's like a radical cell. So your body isolates the damaged cells and it creates a cytotoxic effect, starving the damaged cells out. So that to the point where all those cells are starting to cannibalize themselves. They start eating themselves, right? So they start feeding on themselves because that's the only way they could eat. This is autophagy. Okay. I hope that I kind of made that clear, but I'm not sure because this is very a one-sided conversation. But the link between cancer and autophagy is intricate, involving involving a complex interplay between the cell survival, um, the death, excuse me, and the maintenance of the cell itself. So here are key points to remember and understand this connection, right? Because it's we can't really talk about autophagy until you understand the connection between autophagy and cancer, because it's there's a balance to be played. You know, everybody thinks, oh, well, I want to build up autophagy. You know, create autophagy in my system. It kills off all the cancer cells. Well, if you're not eradicating that crap, guess what cancer feeds on? That crap. So autophagy is good and it's not good. You need a balance, right? And because you need to evacuate, you know, there has to be, you know, garbage in, garbage out. You want it to evacuate as quick as it's destroyed. So anyway, that is something to be mindful of, right? But in any event, so there is a dual role of autophagy. The dual role on one end, it's the tumor suppression. Autophagy can act as a tumor suppressor by removing the damaged cells and it suppressing the inflammation, right? So when you get all this damage to the cells and it's all die off, there it creates inflammation, right? So the maintaining stability is going to be suppressed, suppressing the inflammation, right? It helps prevent the accumulation of factors that can contribute to the irritation and progression of cancer because inflammation, right? It comes back to that. But the tumor promotion, now this is what I was talking about. On the other hand, autophagy can also promote cancer, right? Let me think of a decent way to describe it to explain this. Um, so I think I pretty much hit the nail on the head. Um, so what you're doing is as a die off is accumulating, you have to evacuate this somehow, or else it's creating just a chum slick. You know, in fishing, we call it a chum slick, right? So you're creating a lunch line for radical and disease cells. So in established tumors, the cancer cells often exploit the autophagy to cope with stressful conditions, such as nutrient deprivation, hypoxia. This supports the the metabolism of those cancer cells, and it enables them to withstand a harsh environment. So that makes them stronger. So anyway, the role in cell death is that the autophagy plays a role in a form of programmed cell death. Um, the excessive autophagy can lead to cell death, which may benefit in preventing the survival and spread of the cancer. But if you're not getting rid of all that dead crap quick enough, again, the chumps like situation. The cancer cells face stressful conditions with autophagy. Anytime uh, anytime somebody or something is struggling for air and struggling for food, starving, 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 and they'll do anything, they just scratch and scrape or whatever. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. Is creating a lot of stress in your body. Um, so it is good to know all the elements that autophagy brings. It could create some well, your body will talk to you. It'll let you know what's happening to it, and rest assured that as autophagy occurs, things are going to be changing. Um, Now, targeting the autophagy has become a potential avenue for cancer treatment. There's a lot of anecdotal uh, um, situations where people think that something is working because they see some uh, some sort of placebo effect or something with something that they're doing. But in this case, we are 100% scientifically supported. So, um, in any event, conversely, promoting autophagy in certain situations might help overcome therapeutic resistance. Understanding that the dynamics of autophagy in cancer is essentially for developing effective therapies. So researchers are exploring ways to manipulate the autophagy to either enhance its tumor suppressive effects or inhibit its pro survival role, because you can't have it both ways. You can't suppress it and want to use it, so it's a push pull type of thing. On one hand, you want to suppress the autophagy to eliminate the chum slick, for the feeding, and on the other hand, you gotta promote the autophagy to get rid of the disease. So I don't know. The dual roles um, can actually promote cancer. That secondary where you have too much autophagy, it can actually promote cancer by acting as a survival mechanism. And I think I already said that, but in stressful conditions with the tumor, such as uh, depriving it of nutrients or hypoxia, cancer cells activate autophagy. The cancer cells activate autophagy to recycle the cellular components. So, so they almost regenerate. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other details to mention about the autophagy, but basically, that's uh, that's the concern that you have now with the inhibition of cancer with the tumor suppressants, and autophagy acts as a tumor suppressor by removing the damaged cells, and uh, there's a million and one different angles to explore autophagy, and we just are not going to go over them all right now. But there are natural autophagy inhibitors, and I think that those inhibitors you should make note of them. I mean, I've done a lot of research on different well different forms of repurposed medicine, and as well, um, as well as uh, things like this. So the natural autophagy, how would you say that? Autophagic, yeah. The natural inhibitors for autophagy. Um, Reservoir, res, resveratrol, 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 resveratrol is that's actually one of my favorites. Actually, that's found in red grapes or the skin of red grapes. It's been studied for its potential uh, to inhibit autophagy in certain contexts. So that'll actually inhibit the autophagy in certain contexts. The curcumin, which is actually one of the ingredients in my cocktail, that is derived from turmeric, which I mentioned before. It exhibits autophagy uh, autophagy inhibition, and has anti-cancer properties. Um, Quercetin. Quercetin is another one. Present in food like apples, onions, green tea. Um, it's investigated. People investigated, or medical industry investigated it for its ability to modulate autophagy. Um, there's green tea extracts that are really good also. Um, excuse me. I think I don't know, coming something here. Nevertheless, um, it's there's a mechanism of all of it. I wanted to touch on a few different things. The elimination of the sugar pathways and alternative metabolisms. The mechanisms of the ability to eliminate the sugar pathway. That's huge. Um, there's cancer cells that often rely heavily on glycose. I'm going to actually have to quote something here for you. There's something called the Warburg effect, and that's the cancer cells often rely heavily on gly- glycolysis, glycolysis. Say that 3 times fast. So it relies on glycolysis, which is a $10 word for saying that it relies on that to feed on. The breakdown of glucose, that's glycolysis. Glycolysis is the breakdown of glucose. I don't know why they don't just say breakdown of glucose. Cancer cells often rely heavily on the breakdown of glucose, even in the presence of oxygen. Disrupting this sugar pathway can limit the primary energy source for cancer cells. So there's a Warburg effect, the science behind, well, the science behind pretty much what supports um, all of the ingredients in my cancer cocktail, because that's pretty much saying, I mean, all of those ingredients play that role, breaking down glucose, even in the presence of oxygen. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, that fits the criteria, I think. But with a sugar pathway compromised, cancer cells adapt by turning to alternative energy sources, um, which we talked about that too. They when that sugar pathway gets compromised, they'll feed on anything. So that's where autophagy comes in. So autophagy is actually um, eh, autophagy as an alternative nutrient source. In the absence of sufficient glucose, cancer cells activate autophagy as a survival mechanism. So autophagy helps recycle cellular components and utilize dead cellular debris for nutrients, providing an alternative energy source for cancer cells' survival and proliferation. So anyway, so that's all I'm going to read to you, because I don't really like doing the whole reading $15 words. But um, we're going to go ahead and post a list of autophagy inhibitors, which oddly enough, um, hydroxychloroquine is at the top of the list, but I will go ahead and post all that stuff, so everybody has a reference point. And let's talk about a couple of those just really quick while we have a little bit of time. Hydroxychloroquine, chloroquine, uh, uh, bafilomycin A1, uh, 3 MA, which a lot of these are like supplemental things, but there's a list of things. I'll post them all. Um, MRT 68921. I don't know what a lot of these things are, but there's a list of them, and you can do your own research. I'll post them. Autophagy inhibitors act differently stages of the uh, the process. Yeah. So in any event, there's I have miles and miles of studies and research papers and this and that. I mean, it's what I do all day long, but it was important that you understand the connection between the autophagy and cancer and the importance to balance that. So just make sure that when you're doing your protocol, you're calculated and you're selecting the right medications and you're monitoring what's going on with your body. Being calculated in an attack requires a strategic and methodical approach, grounded in a thorough understanding of the situation at hand. There are so many people that I see online and talking, in conversations or dialogue on a post that honestly just have no idea. They have no idea what they're regurgitating, and it's dangerous. You could just regurgitate what you want, but if it's not supported by clinical evidence and you're selling people on something, that that is not cool. Not cool, man. So you got to be calculated and you got to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing, you do your own research. Do your own research and understand the situation at hand. It involves meticulous planning, thoughtful consideration of whatever it is that you're going to do. You just gotta have consideration of the potential risks and and the possible outcomes. Listen, I don't know the long term effects of fenbendazole in human body. I don't know the long term effects of drinking iced tea. I don't know, but I do know the long term effects of cancer. So, I mean, a keen awareness, a keen awareness is what you need, right? You need to know what you're getting yourself into, all right? And if you had concerns walking into this, it's for good reason. You're playing fast and loose by avoiding Western medicine. I don't vilify Western medicine. They kept me alive long enough to find repurposed medicine. So, eh, you know, you just got to make sure that you use precision and become become aware of what's going on. I mean, a calculated attack, all calculated attacks, prioritize efficiency over brute force. I'm not telling you to cut off your arm. I'm saying be calculated and prioritize the efficiency. Use a scalpel, not a sword, right? And whether in a military context, cybersecurity, or other strategic scenarios, being calculated means employing foresight and strategic thinking to maximize the likelihood of success while minimizing unforeseen consequences. So be calculated, know what you're doing, devise a plan, put it into effect, and execute, execute, execute. Folks, you are in the right place. All you have to do is be disciplined, be vigilant, and execute. So, hey, listen, I'm hoping to put together a Q&A, doing a live Q&A. Probably going to do it next Tuesday, but I will post and let you know. It's going to be me and at least one other person, and we're going to talk about questions and concerns that people might have. So I will be posting on that quite a bit throughout the next week or whatever, just to kind of give you a build up and try to create a little bit of dialogue about it. Feel free to start posting, some questions or concerns. Well, actually, don't post them. We're doing it live. So anyway, stay tuned for the details of that. And outside of that, stay vigilant, stay strong, and keep on keeping on. If you don't like if you don't like what's going on, do something to change it. If you change the narrative, you can control the outcome. We'll see you next week.